your experiences, your challenges, even your dreams are all part of a grand simulation. Jake Ducey and Elon Musk have both hinted at this mind-bending possibility. What if your thoughts and beliefs are the very programming language that shapes your life? Every choice you make, every intention you set, could be a line of code rewriting your reality. The power lies within you to manipulate the parameters of your existence. So what will you create today? The keys to your reality are in your hands. Hack away.
Hello again. It's so good to have you back with us. Today, we're going to be diving into something pretty amazing. We're going to be looking at Jake Ducey's best-kept secret.
Ooh, a secret. I like secrets. Spill the tea. What's he hiding?
Well, he says it can change your life. It's all about...
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Life-changing, huh? You got to tell me more.
Okay, so are you ready for this? Ducey believes we're all living in a simulation.
Whoa, hold up. A simulation? Like the Matrix? Is that what we're talking about here?
Kind of, yeah. He actually connects it to Elon Musk's simulation theory. He explains it in this really cool way, comparing reality to Netflix.
Netflix. Okay, I'm not seeing the connection yet, but I'm listening.
Okay, so imagine you're scrolling through Netflix, right? But instead of movies and shows, you're scrolling through different realities.
You're like infinite possibilities, alternate versions of our lives, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And Ducey says that just like you pick a show on Netflix, our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are actually choosing which reality we're experiencing.
Interesting. So it's not that these realities are all playing out at the same time, but our choices determine which one we're tuned into.
That's how I understand it. And it makes you think, right? Like, if you believe you're going to have a terrible day,
you're probably going to find ways to prove yourself right.
Like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing.
Right.
But what if we could shift those beliefs? What if we could actually choose a different reality?
I mean, that's a pretty big what if. Is that even possible? Is that what Ducey's suggesting?
Yeah. He even uses this example of an elevator with infinite buttons, each one representing a different version of your life. And guess what? You get to choose which floor you go to.
So we're not just passengers on this ride. We're actually the ones pushing the buttons.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we know which buttons to push? How do we choose the reality we want?
Okay, so get this. Ducey says it's all about recoding the simulation. He describes us as players in a video game.
A video game? Okay, that's a new one. How does that work?
Well, he says we have the power to make choices, level up, and basically hack the code of reality.
Okay. So if it's a game, where are the cheat codes? How do we get ahead?
Well, he doesn't call them cheat codes exactly, but he talks about these things he calls mind viruses.
Mind viruses, what are those? Sounds kind of scary.
Yeah, so basically they're these subconscious beliefs and patterns that are limiting our potential. You know, like those thoughts that tell us we're not good enough or that we can't achieve our dreams.
Oh, yeah. I think we've all encountered a few of those mind viruses in our time. So how do we get rid of them? Is there like an antivirus for our brains?
Ducey says it's all about identifying those beliefs and then consciously choosing to rewrite them. He even says that a lot of those mind viruses come from fear.
Yeah, fear can be so paralyzing. It can really keep us stuck.
He suggests approaching life more like a gamer, you know, detaching from the fear and just going for it. What's the best that could happen?
I like that. It's like shifting your perspective. So how do we actually start rewriting those negative beliefs? Do we need to become coders to make this happen?
He says it's not about coding, but about using tools like hypnosis and affirmations to reprogram our subconscious minds.
Hypnosis. I've always been curious about that.
Yeah, it sounds kind of out there.
Yeah.
But Ducey says he used it himself to achieve success.
Really? He used this stuff to change his own life. That's pretty convincing. Tell me more about that.
He says he used hypnosis to reprogram his beliefs about becoming a successful author, even though he wasn't seeing a lot of evidence for it at the time.
Whoa, wait. He believed in his success even before he actually saw it. That's some serious faith right there.
Yeah, and he even has this great quote, "Lack of evidence is not evidence of lack."
I love that. That's a good one to remember. But so how did he do it? Just believe really, really hard and hope for the best.
Well, he says it's more than just believing. There's this thing he calls the gestation and incubation period. Like, you plant a seed and...
And you have to be patient.
Exactly. You can't keep digging it up to see if it's growing. You have to trust the process.
That's the hard part, though, right? Being patient. We live in a world of instant gratification. Waiting for things to grow can be tough.
Yeah, and Ducey talks about that. He shares this anecdote about how frustrated he was at one point because he believed so strongly in his success as an author.
But it wasn't happening yet.
Yeah, he was still selling his books out of the trunk of his car.
So he was living with this tension, right? He had this belief in his future success, but his current reality was totally different.
Exactly. But he kept going. He stayed committed to his beliefs, and eventually things started to shift. He went from selling books out of his car to speaking at TEDx events to landing a major book deal with Penguin Random House.
Wow, that's a pretty incredible transformation. So are you saying his mental shift was the sole reason for his success? Or was it a combination of factors?
That's a good question. It's hard to say for sure. There was obviously hard work involved and talent and probably a bit of luck too. But he really emphasizes the importance of this mental shift, this belief in his own potential.
It does make you wonder, what if we all have this untapped potential within us, just waiting to be unlocked?
That's what we're going to be exploring further in our deep dive. So we've talked about this idea of reality as a simulation and Jake Ducey's belief that we can actually recode it. He even offers some pretty concrete steps for how to do that.
Yeah, it's all about becoming aware of those mind viruses we were talking about. You know, those negative beliefs that are running in the background of our minds, kind of like on autopilot.
But how do we even know what those beliefs are? I mean, if they're subconscious, how do we bring them to the surface?
Well, Ducey suggests asking yourself some really tough questions like, what do I believe that isn't actually true, even though it might feel true?
That's a good one. I think we've all had those thoughts that just feel so real, even though deep down we know they're probably not true.
Oh, absolutely. It's like these beliefs become so ingrained in us over time that we just don't even question them anymore. But once we can identify them, that's when we can start to challenge them.
And that's where the real work begins, right? Ducey talks about using tools like affirmations, visualizations, even hypnosis, all to help reprogram those limiting beliefs.
Yeah, those techniques can be really powerful, especially if you use them consistently. It's like retraining your brain, helping it to think in new ways.
It's interesting because Ducey talks about how much of our current reality is shaped by this unintentional and often negative programming that we've picked up through our lives.
That's a really good point. We absorb so many beliefs and ideas from our families, our culture, the media, and a lot of it might not be serving us anymore.
Right. It's almost like we have to deprogram ourselves from all those old messages before we can start reprogramming ourselves with new ones, more empowering ones.
Exactly. And that takes real effort. It's not just about thinking positive thoughts once in a while. It's about actually creating new neural pathways, new habits of thought.
And Ducey really emphasizes the importance of repetition and consistency here. He suggests practicing these techniques daily, even if it's just for a few minutes at a time.
It's like building a muscle, right? The more you use those new thought patterns, the stronger they become.
And he also talks about the importance of visualization, really trying to visualize your desired reality as vividly as possible, engaging all of your senses. He even suggests doing it right before bed when your subconscious mind is more receptive.
There's actually a lot of research out there on the power of visualization, especially in sports. Athletes who visualize themselves performing successfully are more likely to actually achieve those results.
So it's not just some new age woo-woo concept. There's some science to back it up. It really makes you think about just how much power our minds have.
Absolutely. And if we can reprogram our minds with these positive beliefs, imagine what we could accomplish.
I know Ducey talks about his own journey as sort of a proof of concept, going from selling books out of his car trunk to speaking at TEDx events to landing a major book deal with a publishing house.
It's a pretty inspiring story. But of course, we can't say for sure that his mental shift was the only reason for his success, right?
Right. But it does make you wonder, what if we all have that potential inside us, just waiting to be unlocked?
What if we could actually create our own reality just by changing our thoughts?
It's a pretty radical idea.
Yeah.
But Ducey seems to genuinely believe it's possible. And he's not the only one. There's a whole movement of people out there exploring these concepts of manifestation and the law of attraction.
It's definitely an area worth exploring, but even if we don't completely buy into this whole idea of manifesting our reality, I think there's still a lot of value in understanding how our beliefs shape our experiences.
Absolutely. And Ducey gives us some really practical tools and techniques that we can all use to become more aware of our thoughts and start changing those that aren't serving us.
It's all about taking control, becoming more intentional with our minds instead of just letting those old stories run on autopilot. Choosing thoughts that actually empower us and support our goals.
So let's say someone's listening to this and they're feeling really intrigued. Where would you suggest they start?
I think the first step is just to become more aware. Pay attention to the stories you're telling yourself, the beliefs you're holding on to. Really examine them.
Ducey also talks about the importance of questioning those beliefs, right? Asking yourself, is this really true? Or is this just an old story I've been carrying around for way too long?
Exactly. And once you've identified a belief that you want to change, you can start experimenting with different techniques. See what works for you.
Like affirmations, visualizations, maybe even hypnosis.
Exactly. And it's important to be patient with yourself. Remember, it takes time to rewire those neural pathways and create real, lasting change.
Ducey talks about how it can be really frustrating when you don't see those results right away. He even says he went through that himself.
He talks about how tempting it can be to just give up, to fall back into those old ways of thinking. But he encourages us to stick with it, to trust that those seeds we've planted will eventually grow.
It's like having faith in something you can't see yet, which I think can be really challenging for a lot of people.
It is. But ultimately, Ducey's message is one of hope. He believes that we all have the power to create the reality we want, but we have to free ourselves from those limiting beliefs that are holding us back.
It's a powerful message. And even if you don't fully buy into the whole reality is a simulation thing, I think there's still a lot of wisdom in his approach.
Absolutely. It encourages us to become more conscious creators of our own lives, to take responsibility for our thoughts, our beliefs, and ultimately our experiences.
And that's a pretty empowering concept, no matter how you look at it. Okay, so we've spent some time with Jake Ducey and his ideas about recoding reality. He's given us some interesting things to think about, some new ways to look at things, and he's even shared some specific techniques too, for putting these ideas into action.
Right. It all boils down to this: understanding the power of our beliefs and realizing that we don't have to just sit back and be victims of our circumstances.
Yeah, we can actually choose. We can shape our own reality by changing our thinking, by shifting our beliefs.
Absolutely. But it's one thing to talk about it, to understand it on an intellectual level. It's another thing entirely to actually apply it to your life.
So true. So for someone listening who's thinking, okay, I want to try this. I want to start recoding my own reality. Where do they begin? What are those concrete steps they can take?
Well, Ducey has a suggestion. He says to start with just one belief. One limiting belief you want to change. Don't try to tackle everything at once.
That makes sense. So let's say someone's struggling with fear of failure, a pretty common one. How could they approach that from this recoding reality perspective?
First, they need to acknowledge it. Become really aware of it. Where does it come from? How has it been affecting them? Maybe even journaling about it could help.
Okay, and then?
Then they can start to experiment. Try out different techniques to shift that belief. Affirmations, visualizations, even hypnosis. See what resonates with them, what feels powerful.
It's almost like they become scientists of their own minds.
Right, exactly. Trying things out, observing the results, seeing what creates those positive shifts.
And it's a process, not a quick fix.
Exactly. It takes time. It takes effort. And honestly, a big part of it is just being patient with yourself.
Ducey has this great quote. He says, lack of evidence is not evidence of lack.
Oh, I love that one.
It's a good reminder, right? Just because you don't see those changes immediately doesn't mean it's not working.
Right. It's like planting a seed. We can't expect to see a flower the next day. We have to trust that there's a process happening underground, even if we can't see it.
So what about those people who are feeling discouraged? They've been trying, but they're not seeing those results right away.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
Stay committed. Stay with it. Don't give up. Keep practicing those techniques. Keep nurturing those seeds. And remember, even small shifts, little changes in your beliefs, they can have a huge ripple effect.
It's like that old saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Exactly. Small, consistent efforts over time, they really can lead to big changes.
It's been fascinating exploring Jake Ducey's ideas about recoding reality. Whether you totally buy into this whole simulation idea or not, I think he offers some really valuable insights about the power of our minds, the power to shape our own experiences.
Absolutely. It's really a journey of self-discovery, and it can lead to some incredible growth, amazing transformation.
So to wrap things up, if you're curious about Jake Ducey and his work, we encourage you to check out his website and his YouTube channel. We'll include links in the show notes.
And remember, you are far more powerful than you think. The power to change your reality, it's inside you.
That's a great place to leave it. Thanks for joining us today for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.